Have you ever found yourself in a conversation that just feels like a game you never agreed to play, and one where you always seem to end up feeling drained, frustrated, and just completely unheard? Well, today we're diving into a really powerful framework for taking back control in those exact situations. Let's get into these psychological countermoves.
The most striking truth about psychological countermoves is that the most effective way to defeat a manipulator is not to fight them, but to become a perfectly polished mirror that reflects their own behavior back to them without any emotional distortion. Now, we generally assume that self-defense means you have to push back, right? But in these high-pressure dynamics, your own resistance, well, that's the fuel the controller uses to keep you locked in their script. So, that brings us to this huge central question. Why does staying calm often make a controller even more frustrated than an actual argument? It's the core paradox of what's called reflective neutrality. It's that light bulb moment when you realize that just refusing to give them a reaction is the one move that can end the game instantly. It goes against every single one of our instincts.
All right, so here's our roadmap for this explainer, our path to sovereignty. First, we're going to break down the resistance trap. Then, we'll introduce the game-changing mirror strategy and get into the practical counter-moves toolkit. After that, we have to face the inner opponent, a crucial step before we work on building your awareness. And finally, we'll see what it really means to become the mirror.
So first up, let's get to the root of the problem. Why do our usual attempts to defend ourselves just seem to make everything worse? We're about to look at this invisible cage we get trapped in. And the really shocking part? It's a cage built out of our own responses.
Okay, look at this slide. This is basically the before and after of what we're talking about. On the left, you've got defensive reactivity. You know this feeling. You're emotionally hooked, you're totally exhausted, and you're stuck playing their game. But on the right, that's the goal, sovereign detachment. That's when you're centered, you're observant, and you're playing your own game no matter what they throw at you. Our entire focus is on making that journey from the left side to the right. And here's how we get stuck on the left. It's called the resistance trap. It's that voice in your head, that deep-seated belief that says if I don't fight back, I lose. I have to defend my dignity. But here's the brutal irony. That fight, that emotional engagement you give them, is the very fuel they need. Your resistance is what keeps their show on the road. Without it, the whole thing just grinds to a halt. And the result of falling into this trap over and over again, it's something called predictability burnout. And this isn't just about feeling a little tired. This is a deep, soul-crushing exhaustion, both physical and mental. It's the specific burnout you feel from having the exact same unwinnable fight again and again. You know every line before it's said, you know exactly how it's going to end, with you feeling completely drained. And that's the point where you know you need a fundamentally new strategy. So what is this new approach? It's a huge strategic and psychological shift. It's about changing your role in the entire dynamic. It's about going from being the specimen under the microscope to being the scientist who's holding it.
The core idea here is called operational neutrality. Now, this is way more than just staying quiet. It's a deliberate, cognitive shift. You know, think of a hostage negotiator on TV. They can't get hooked by the criminal's anger or panic, right? They have to stay completely neutral to control the situation. It's the exact same principle. You're training your brain to see the emotional bait, acknowledge it, and then consciously choose not to bite.
And this is where the power shifts, dramatically. The second you stop participating in their drama and you start observing it, the entire dynamic flips on its head. You're no longer an actor in their play. You're now the audience analyzing the performance. And the person trying to get a rise out of you, they suddenly become the specimen. Their tactics, their patterns, it all just becomes data for you to watch instead of attacks for you to feel. Okay, so we get the mindset, become the observer. But how do we actually do that, in the heat of the moment? Well, this is where we get practical. These are the specific, actionable techniques you can start practicing right away. This is your toolkit. The toolkit has 3 core tactics, and each one builds on the last. First, we have the gray rock foundation, which is all about making yourself uninteresting. Second is the reflective inquiry, where you start turning the focus back on them. And third, the master move, the literalism lock, which disarms hidden insults. Let's break them down one by one. First up, the gray rock foundation. The idea here is beautifully simple. You become as boring and unreactive as a plain gray rock. You give short, factual, completely uninteresting answers. Yes. No. Okay. I see. You strip every single ounce of emotional value from your words.
The psychological principle at play is called social extinction. Basically, a behavior stops when it stops getting a reward. If someone gets zero emotional reaction from you, no anger, no hurt, nothing, the behavior just fizzles out. They get bored and find something else to do.
Now, once you've got that neutral foundation down, you can use the second tactic, the reflective inquiry. And this is a really crucial shift. Your job is to stop defending yourself, stop explaining your actions, stop justifying anything. Instead, you start narrating their behavior back to them, usually as a neutral observational question. All of a sudden, you're not the topic of conversation anymore. Their pattern of behavior is.
Here's a perfect example. Let's say a fight always seems to start right as you're about to walk out the door. Instead of getting sucked in, you use a reflective inquiry. You state a calm, neutral observation. I notice you only bring this up when I'm leaving. And then you ask a simple, open-ended question. Why is that? See? There's no accusation. It's just pure observation. You've just shown a massive spotlight on their pattern without any emotional charge at all.
And the final, and maybe the most advanced tactic, is the literalism lock. So much of manipulative communication is about subtext, right? The insult is hidden inside a seemingly innocent question, like, are you really gonna wear that? The subtext, the real message, is you look terrible. The literalism lock means you completely ignore the subtext. You respond only to the literal words. So to that question, the literal response is just a calm, simple yes. You refuse the bait, and in doing so, you completely defuse the intended insult. It has nowhere to land.
Now, all these tactics, they sound pretty simple on paper, don't they? But they are incredibly hard to actually pull off. Why? Because the biggest battle here isn't with the other person. It's with our own internal programming. We have to confront the inner opponent, that part of us that has this deep, desperate need to react, to defend ourselves, and to be understood.
This is the internal conflict we all have to face. On one side, there's our vulnerability, that very human need for validation. We're all wired to want to be understood, and sometimes we value that feeling even more than we value being safe. That's the hook. And on the other side is our strength, operational neutrality, the ability to see their move, understand their strategy, and get their intent, all without getting sucked into their emotional storm.
So, how is that even possible? Well, there's a psychological principle that makes it work. It's called cognitive empathy without affective mirroring. Let's break that down. Cognitive empathy is just understanding how another person thinks. Affective mirroring is when you actually feel their emotions with them. The key skill is to do the first one without doing the second. You can understand that they are angry, and you can understand why they're trying to make you angry without actually becoming angry yourself. And the good news is, this is a skill you can absolutely learn.
Okay, so knowing the theory is one thing. Putting it into practice is a whole other ballgame. So now we're shifting gears. We're moving from theory into the concrete actions you can take starting today to build the mental muscle this strategy requires.
Here's your awareness checklist. Think of it like a workout plan. First, conduct a reaction audit. After a tough conversation, just ask yourself, did my face, my tone of voice, did it give away my power? Second, just start practicing noticing the resistance trap as it's happening. Just seeing it in real time is a massive win. Third, try to depersonalize the conflict. Instead of saying you and I, try using words like we or the situation. And finally, this is a big one. Internalize this mantra. I don't have to defend what isn't true. You can just let a false accusation hang there in the air. It doesn't actually require a response from you. As you build these skills, you start moving towards the ultimate goal here. And this isn't just about learning a few clever tactics. It's about a complete transformation of your personal identity and your relationship with power. It's about ending the game for good.
Because when you boil it all down, the fundamental truth of these dynamics is incredibly simple. Control is never a one-person show. It always requires two people. It's a dance.
And in that dance, there is always one person who leads, setting the steps, setting the pace, and one person who follows along.
And the entire game, the whole cycle of conflict and burnout and exhaustion, it ends in the single moment you make a choice. The moment you simply choose to stop following their lead. You don't have to fight for control. You just have to stop following. You withdraw your participation, and the dance is over.
And this is where it all leads. When you truly master these counter moves, you realize something profound. You were never the real target. The attacks, the insults, they were never actually about you. You just become a mirror, calmly reflecting their own behavior back at them, while you remain centered, clear, and completely sovereign. So remember this. You are the mirror, not the target.